With outbreaks of rain spreading eastwards, it'll be persistent and heavy this evening in Connacht, West Ulster and Munster, with temperatures of 7 to 11 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Only the cream of the crop pick up Champions League medals. Jonathan Greening's got one. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5 o'clock. Text number 53106. You can tweet us at Off the Ball. We're joined by the former Republic of Ireland striker Stephen Elliott, the Irish Independent football correspondent Daniel McDonnell, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward to speak about the beautiful game of football. Our coverage thanks to Paddy Power. For more information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. We're streaming the conversation as well, so as well as listening on News Talk, you can watch us on the social channels for Off the Ball, Periscope for Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. If you haven't downloaded that app yet, please do so. Such great stuff on it by searching for OTB Sports in your app store. Good afternoon, lads. Hope you're well. Just to let you know, everybody, that we got commentary of Republic of Ireland Luxembourg at 7:40 this evening with Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne calling it. Let's get to Serbia first before we speak about Stephen Kenny specifically and the team for Luxembourg tonight. Stephen Elliott, what did you make of the match against Serbia on Wednesday?
I think first and foremost, I was delighted to see us actually score a goal, because it'd been a long time coming, and you were starting to wonder whether we were capable of scoring an international goal again. But there was I was speaking to Dan off air there. There were certainly moments in the game where you'd look at and you think, there's a couple of nice passages of play down either wing, and we getting balls into the box, and we were getting bodies into the box. And yeah, there was a few positives. If you're looking for positives, there was definitely positives there. Obviously, I still never felt that we were going to win the game. I think I always felt Serbia had a kind of extra gear and that little bit more kind of class and presence on the pitch to kind of get the job done. But there's certainly positives in the game, and on another day we may have potentially got a point out if we had kind of held on to our lead for a little bit longer.
Who impressed for you, Stephen?
I thought Josh Cullen done okay. I think he was tidy, kind of kept the ball moving. He looked like he could have a good future internationally. Alan Brown, he kind of, some of his runs into the box, that's what he's about. He playing for Preston, he makes late runs into the box, good timing of the runs, and he can finish. He scored a lot of goals for Preston, and his header was really good. And I just think in general, I think that everybody knew. I think the thing for me is everybody kind of knew what their job was on the pitch. It was kind of a well-drilled performance, albeit not quite enough to get the result that was probably required. But I think all in all, it was, everybody seemed to know what they were doing. Seamus Coleman obviously came back in. I thought he was really good. He showed real leadership skills. I think even away from his actual game, I think you could hear him during the game, like organising, kind of giving information. Even there when Alan Brown scored, I don't know if you watched the footage when the crowd noise was off, he was telling Alan to kind of walk back to the halfway line. When everybody was that bit excited, walk back and take your time and kind of set. And these are little things that probably go unnoticed, but I think his presence on the pitch was big. And obviously, the other lads that came in at the back, they done okay. Listen, Mitrovic obviously came on and caused a few problems with his kind of presence and his abilities. But again, the Serbia are a quality team. As I said, we end up losing the game 3-2, gave her a bit of a rally. But I think in general, I think it was a good team shape. I would like to see a little bit more up front. I think Aaron Connolly, like he's got great potential, don't be wrong. There's a few times in the game where I think he probably could have done a little bit more, worked a little bit harder off the ball to kind of create problems for the Serbian defenders and maybe give us a little bit more respite kind of in defence and at the back. Whereas I think when Collins and Shane Long came on, they'd done that a little bit more, hence obviously where the second goal came from. But there's definitely positives to work on, and obviously going into the Luxembourg game tonight now, you would expect us to have probably majority of the possession in that game. I'd like to think we will. So I think now I'm very interested to see what the starting lineup will be tonight, to be honest with you, John.
Dan and Johnny, what was your feeling about what you saw?
Yeah, listen, I'd sort of echo probably what Stephen was saying in many respects. I think there was obviously key moments in the game where on another day it swings for you, but I don't think it's a big hard luck story. Definitely the Connolly penalty. I have to admit, at the time I didn't think it was a penalty, and then it was only when you see the replay and I think there is probably an argument to be said that Connolly's reputation, or certainly he has that sort of streak to him that he'll go down. Was that a sort of a factor? Because Stephen mentions footage. There's great footage about the players arguing it out afterwards. Even Callum Robinson wondering if there was VAR, But it really was one of those where the player reaction tends to really tell you. There's obviously an appeal but then there's an appeal. There's a real sort of genuine appeal. And I do sort of agree with the point that if Ireland had gone 2-1 up at that stage, I don't think they would have lost the game. Similarly, if they'd got to half-time at 1-0, I think that would have been interesting, just to put up a small bit more pressure on Serbia, that they, if the longer they have to stew over their situation, they're little things. But I think on balance, Serbia sort of showed their superior quality. They had better players, on the pitch, in the key areas, and that showed. And I think that's probably it. Like, every goal is preventable. I think, the second goal in particular, it's very interesting to see Dave Henderson, ex-League of Ireland goalkeeper. We talk about the mistake and Travers being caught off his line, but even just the mistake before the mistake, the space that they left on that side, that Travers was trying to anticipate correctly where the pass was probably going to go, but just got caught in no man's land. And I think what Stephen Kenny and Alan Brown were frustrated by was that it was from an Irish kick out. We obviously talk about Ireland going short, and they go short a lot more, but this was an instance where as they did, I think they mixed it up probably a bit better the other night in terms of their sort of approach to the game. But this was one time where they obviously went a bit longer and lost the first and the second ball and were cut apart very easily. And that was a sort of a phase of the game where Serbia had brought on Mitrovic, and you would imagine you were setting up for a situation where Ireland were going to be pegged in and have to withstand more pressure in the last 20 minutes. They gave them a soft goal away, before you got to that. So there's frustrating moments. There was potential in aspects of it. I think, as Stephen mentions, Josh Cullen, Alan Brown, even just the willingness to try the system, to try 3-5-2. I think Darragh O'Shea, yes, there was instances, where he had difficult moments, but just I think he is probably, he's quite suited to that. In some respects, he has a situation where John Egan will be even more suited to that role whenever he comes back. I think Coleman on the right of the three worked. You had Clark there, but O'Shea could also play on the left of the three potentially as well in the future. So there's a lot to be encouraged by. And yes, the game could have swung their other way, but without it being one where you can come away. I think after Slovakia, there was a sense of, they were not robbed, but like there's a sense of they could have won that. They really could have won that. I didn't come away with that the other night, but there's obviously moments where they will reflect on and think, that might have been one that gets away. And it has created a situation, if we're honest, where Ireland now the wriggle room has been reduced, and barring a situation where Serbia drops silly points elsewhere or something, you're going to have to probably win that return game in Dublin or one of the games against Portugal. So it's pretty clear what the rest of the year entails now.
Yeah, 53106. Hi guys, the one issue I have with Stephen Kenny, his insistence of playing one way only, almost the opposite of Big Jack. Every manager has to take each game on its merits and adjust his style accordingly, says Ian in Cork. Well, he did play 3-5-2, Ian. He was playing 4-3-3 at the very start. Expectations the same, qualify for finals, for World Cup finals and the Euros, says Joey Malone. I wonder, is that the former Dundalk double winning captain? I think it might be. The main difference with the Irish soccer team between the 1990s and now, far less English and Scottish players declaring for us now. And another text in here, we're going nowhere with the style of play. Serbia were technically miles better than this generation of players will ever be. When Ireland are not giving up possession, they're on the brink of giving up possession. If you try to play football against teams that are better players, you will lose. There was a reason better managers like Trapp and O'Neill viewed Irish players a certain way and played accordingly. The job of the senior manager is to win games and qualify for tournaments. Developing a style and players is the underage team's manager's job. Johnny Ward.
Yeah, lots to take in, John. It was such a brave team I think he put out when you think of Cullen and Malumbi in that kind of central positions, with Brown and up in front of them. These players just wouldn't have played together at all before. Malumbi's not playing for Preston at the moment, not getting his game regularly. Cullen's been doing well, but at Anderlecht. So it was a very brave call. A lot has been made of the three at the back. To be honest, I think in terms of matching up against the Serbs, as Stephen Kenny said, I think was perfectly pragmatic. And Seamus Coleman, I thought he had a pretty outstanding game. Granted, he may have been unlucky, may have been fortunate not to give away a penalty, but I thought he was really suited at that position, and he gave experience to the two lads inside him. It's just we had too many players on the pitch that basically had inexperience, particularly Travers, O'Shea for the first goal, you know, he's probably got to step out and play the guy offside rather than kind of track the run. And then obviously Travers for the second goal. I mean, you don't see a mistake like that really at levels that you know, at international level. But in all, I mean, I don't know what people really want from this Ireland team. Do they want us to, you know, go over there, shut up shop, and, you know, follow that template that Irish teams have been kind of known for, which is, you know, brave but ultimately ugly to watch. I enjoy watching Ireland play now, but the bottom line is we got 2 goals, and I think something that hasn't really been said enough is, you know, the changes that Stephen Kenny made brought about a goal that could yet actually prove important in terms of a head-to-head, because if we were to beat Serbia, obviously in Dublin 2-1 or whatever, it might be significant, yes, and I didn't see enough in that game to think that we can't beat them when we have our best team there. I thought the first goal was really, really nicely worked. And I thought they showed a great attitude, you know, to rally and make a fight of it at the end. Serbia have a quality up front that we don't have. You know, we were carrying Aaron Connolly for much of the game. It was clear that he wasn't fully fit. I agree with Dan that, you know, I didn't think it was a penalty initially, but obviously it probably was a penalty. But maybe there is a suspicion with Connolly that he does go down a bit easily. But like, Connolly was struggling throughout the game. When you consider the options that Stephen Kenny didn't have, as it was, when you have to play Connolly, who he probably would have been happier to start on the bench if there were other options available, to have to play your third choice goalkeeper and still really put it up to the Serbs. And I think Serbia would have come away from that game relieved and with a newfound respect for Ireland, maybe, that has been lost because of the way we play. And the ultimate point is, John, this is a massive game against Luxembourg. It's no formality whatsoever. You know, if you were backing a horse at this price, you'd expect it to win, but you wouldn't be absolutely amazed if it were beaten. And Ireland have a big challenge tonight. This is a game that, you know, Stephen Kenny, if Ireland don't win this game tonight, you'd have to think where is his career going to go, because it is down to the fine margins of a handful of games. I was encouraged by what we saw against Serbia, but we have to win tonight.
5-3-1.
John, can I just come in?
Yeah.
Can I just come in? I mean, by the way, I think the head-to-head is actually goal difference before head-to-head in the World Cup, but I mean, it might still be an important goal for goal difference. I just think, like, one of the texts there, I think, like, obviously we read out texts and like everyone has their opinions, but just that previous, the last text you read out there, I think it's part of like the sort of the philosophical debate that's built up around the team. Like, for someone to say, well, yes, you know, the pattern of play and style comes from underage managers. That's where you learn that. But the problem we've had in recent years is that there's been a disconnect between what the underage teams do and then the senior team is playing in a completely different way. Now, I can completely understand, like, there's a happy medium to be found between the two things here to some degree, but there actually is a logic in our senior team trying to play roughly in a similar pattern and formation or style of play than our underage teams all the way up. Like, what's the point in having our underage teams, the 15s, 17s, 19s and 21s, trying to play in a particular way and then, like, abandoning that completely when you get to the next level? And part of this thinking, and this may not work, but I just think it's an important point to make, that you have a situation where Malumbi, Darrow O'Shea, Caoimhín Kelleher, you know, Jason Knight, that within 20, they're coming in now at the moment, but within like 2 years to 3 years, certainly these will be the dominant players within the senior dressing room. You know, Connolly, Parrott, we'll see. Like, obviously some of them will drop off, Ida. And ideally you want a situation where the team that they're in is playing with a similar personality and style to the Irish teams they've involved in all the way up. So I think, look, we have a sort of a historical legacy of what was successful for Ireland in the past, and we're struggling to sort of shake it off in terms. Now, like, we can be sure that if we had an Ireland manager doing things the way that, say, Martin O'Neill was, you'd be reading out texts of people saying the exact opposite of that text, saying, no, we need an Irish team that plays in a certain way. In fact, they were all the texts that we used to get when Ireland were playing under O'Neill, when, you know, or, you know, a 1-0 home win against an average enough nation, and they would be the messages we would get. And obviously what we have is we're trying the other side of it now, and it's not going to appease, you know, certain people. Now, I just think as well, the comment that, like, that I think people have it in their head now that Stephen Kenny wants to play in a particular way and that they're doing this all of the time. I saw a difference the other night to some degree. I think at times they did go a bit more direct in passages of the game. I think even the stats showed that in terms of Travers and kickouts, the amount that went short, the amount that went long. Like, there were times in the game where they did actually mix it up because they had Alan Brown trying to run off the two forward players. So I don't think the approach the other night actually was sort of one-dimensional. We can only play in this particular way. So I think that sometimes there's like preconceived notions now of what the team, what the approach is, and that's actually shaping the analysis of it. Like I think the other day, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, maybe Stephen could come in and say he saw something completely different the other night, but I thought at times they tried to mix it up a small bit, even later on with Collins and Long, the goal that they got. You know, it came from a slightly different way of doing things, trying to get crosses in when McLean come on. But also, there was, like, you know, the reward of the more elaborate style of play at times was, you know, the first goal. But that also came from a ball forward initially as well. And Brown then, like, winning the second ball, sending it out wide. So I just don't think it's as straightforward as people are shaping it as now. I think there's a more rounded view of it.
I think that's right, John. First of all, you shouldn't have to apologise for wanting to play the game the right way. You know, we have the Jack Charlton documentary tomorrow night, and, you know, we have to move on from that era of Irish football being bad to watch. And it's been catastrophically bad to watch at times in recent years. But there's a pragmatism about Stephen Kenny. I mean, I think it's suitable to look back on Dundalk's European campaigns to see the way they played. They were perfectly pragmatic in tight games. They got results against teams that they weren't entitled to get results against. But it wasn't all tippy-tappy football or anything like that. They were very good from set pieces. You know, this is the fact, like, this should not be pigeonholed as Ireland trying to play the beautiful game at all costs, because it's nothing like that. And that you'll see that tonight, because this is a game that they need to win, and they'll try to win it in whatever way is deemed necessary. But, like, I'd agree with Dan. It's nonsense to say that it's just one way that we play, because that's not true.
Go on, Stephen.
No, I just think, listen to the lads there. I think, listen, Stephen Kenny, everybody's talking about he wants to play a little bit differently, get us passing the ball a little bit more than what we've been used to. But at the same time, like, and I think it all depends on how much trust, like how much kind of, like the FAI, will they kind of stick with him no matter what? Is it like that kind of, is he given a pass for this campaign? I don't think you can be given a pass at international football. Like, I just think if we're playing this way, we're going to play this way. And we can talk about how we played under Mick McCarthy, Martin O'Neill, Trapattoni before him, where sometimes it wasn't great to watch. But there were certain occasions where we got big results, right? And they were great occasions getting them results. We all remember the big results over the past 5 years. They've been very few and far between, but we remember them. I think if Stephen's going to continue playing this way and kind of want to somewhere along the line as well, we're going to have to start saying, you know what, this is working. Like, we can't just keep saying, well, we're going to change. What's the point in getting rid of him? Because who else are we going to bring in? But say we go 15 games to the line, we've only won like one or two of them games. Like, are we still going to say, well, we're going in the right direction?
Michael O'Neill.
Yeah, well, that's it. There comes a time and a place where you're thinking, okay, we need to get some results, but will he be given that time? I think it all comes down to whether he'll be given that time, because I don't think there's a quick fix for this. Watching the players we have, listen, there was improvements the other night. There's no doubt about it. Everybody knew what they were doing, and even the force. I thought the first 15-minute second half, especially, I thought we played some nice football right through the lines, got down the sides, a couple of pullbacks into the box, and it was good to watch. Like, but that was probably about it as far as football. I think we lacked a threat up front. We lack a threat up front massively, but I think that was probably the best for I've seen from that type of football kind of type point of view, where, you know what, we're actually playing, we're like passing the ball, this is good to watch. But there comes a time where I think we need to start winning games, because I want to watch Ireland now and I want us to win a game. I want us to wait in the game, and yeah, but you want to win a game, and you don't want to be like, okay, right, fair enough, you might come away and say we won that game, it wasn't great to watch, but you still won the game, you're still a little bit happy. Like, I really want us to win a game now, and I would like it to start tonight. I don't know, like. Yeah,
I think it's interesting. I think sometimes when people hear free pass, that's parts of what's can wind people up. I don't believe Stephen Kenny is a free pass for the World Cup campaign, but I understand that's been said. Like, I understand that language has been used. I guess what I would say is I don't think he's going to be, you know, if Ireland don't qualify, like he's in bother. I don't think that's the case. I think that it's a case that he will probably get the campaign. If people can't see progress, like, I think everyone has to be realistic. Like, if we're sitting here and, like, Ireland's last game of the group is against Luxembourg again. It's an away match with Luxembourg. Play Azerbaijan twice in, September, October, then Portugal and Serbia, games like, if we're still having the same discussions, like, if the team is not looking any better in 6-7 games time, then of course there's going to be a real serious debate and he's going to be in bother. So it's not that I think the World Cup and the European Championship cycles are a bit different. I think the Euros one, it's more a case of almost you really need to qualify. The World Cup ones, we haven't qualified in 20 years. We have got to a couple of playoffs, to be fair. You know, we've had some very respectable. We should have got the one in 2010, and you know the Denmark one was an opportunity in 2018. And in fairness, like to get to a second in a group, to get to a playoff, that's good enough to qualify automatically for Euros. You know, so that's like laudable. But the World Cup cycles are a bit different. That I think sometimes people, and I would be making the point, well, he's not going to be gone if you don't qualify for the World Cup, but he could be gone if we bomb and the performances in the campaign are dreadful. But I think at the end of the year, I think at the end of the year there has to be a sort of a mature debate, and people have to look at it and say, okay, let's just say Ireland finished third in the qualifying group, which is probably, you know, they're seeded to be third. It's probably the most likely finishing. I hope that's not the case. People have to look at it and say, okay, have we seen enough on the pitch from this team in 2021 to say next year, the next Euros campaign, you know, you have a situation where the top two in a group will qualify. Do we think we're on a graph towards doing that? And I think that would be the decision, as opposed to saying, well, here's the results he got this year. I think it's a sense of, do we believe that we're going somewhere? Like, do we look better in November than we did the previous November?
Yeah.
You know, and that to me is what it's going to come down to, as opposed to the results. Yeah. But of course, he has to start winning. Like, I mean, obviously he has to start winning. You know.
But Dan, do you not think, right? See this style, right? This is see Stephen Kenny's style. Okay, wants to play, right? Like nobody's saying no, Ireland doesn't want to play with the style. Yeah. But are we actually saying that? Like, is he? Say a few games on the line, we're still batting our head against the wall. Yeah, we're trying to change. Is there somebody else out there potentially that could come in and take over the job and actually play this style that could potentially get a little bit more out of the team rather than like, do you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like, I've never worked under Stephen Kenny. Sometimes I wonder, has he got enough about him to kind of get the maximum amount out of some of these big characters at that level? I'm not sure. Like, the way, as I said, I've never worked underneath him, but I was saying, is there somebody out there who could be similar to Stephen Kenny, but maybe a little bit better? Like, do you know what I mean? We're going to go down that route.
That's like, I think all that stuff, you would think, if the people in charge are doing their job as they should, you know, they'll obviously be getting a feel from what the vibe amongst players is and stuff as well. That's what with any manager, that should be the case. I think towards the end of Martin O'Neill, that was a factor, because Martin O'Neill had something that worked for a period of time, and then it stopped working. Like his way of preparing for games and stuff. I think certain players got to the stage where they needed more information. I think that was the message that came back. So, like, you're going to get a sense of that. Now, listen, you hear things. I certainly haven't heard mad, concerns or stuff that I think he does have players on board. And the argument might be, you know, the important players going forward over the next 2-3 years, are they with him? You know, they are the ones that he needs to bring with them. But they will be parts of the equation. Like, they are all the parts of the equation. But I do think, like, if it looks like, you know, there's a message getting through, that they're being well coached, there's also a coaching team as well there now around them, you know, with Andrews,
that's another thing, though, Dan,
and stuff, you know.
But that's another thing, from the outside looking in, like, I know there's just different reasons, but two of his original coaching team are no longer there, and, like, that's in a short space of time. So there's obviously, like, no matter what I said, that can't be right. If you're, like, I've said this before, if you're a manager, you do your homework on the people you point beside you, like, and I just think, I don't know, you look at Stephen's success, like, I don't know, like, say, Vinnie Peart was alongside him for a long time, say, at Dundalk, and I would just presume that he would have kind of went along. I know, I'm not saying Vinnie Peart would make a massive difference to the Irish setup, but I just think having that, but not having that trust of somebody there alongside you and then bring somebody else, and the way kind of things, what has happened over the past, I don't know, it just feels a bit strange for me, like, and it's, okay, we've got another guy in from Chelsea who, I don't know where the link is there. I just think it's, I don't know whether Stephen maybe, I don't know, I just whether he should have been a little bit more clever in getting people around him that was more part of kind of what he wants to do rather than people.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the link there, well, the link was that Rory Higgins, who he has brought with him, who is the link from Dundalk, is quite close to Anthony Barry. And I think that's where, you know, they were on their pro license together. They were at Coventry together when they were kids, and that's where that connection came from. And I think by Kenny bringing Higgins in, I think that was his connection from Dundalk, that he having people around him. So I think he's a big part of it. But then Barry, that's where it's come from. Like the Duff and Kelly situation. Duff and Kelly probably had fallen out, you know, and that was a problem. That the fact that they both left didn't look great. Let's be honest. You can't sugarcoat it. That looks bad. But what they haven't had, I think, and I know, John, you probably want to go to a break, but what they haven't had is, like, they've had these kind of camps, September, October, November. There was loads going on. And what he hasn't had is probably that bit of breathing space in the job, that they're meant to have a summer break with no competitive games, a few games to try and, like, see where we're going. But, I mean, the mood around that is determined by what happens tonight. Let's be honest. You know, if we win tonight, I think things calm a small bit and you get a bit of time. And we have this big pressurised September window coming. At least you have 4 or 5 months to prepare for it without noise. But if you don't win tonight, listen, we've all been around it long enough to know there'll be a lot going on.
Yeah, but is there a lack of patience, though, when it comes to Stephen Kenny? Like, do people really believe we're going to Qatar? Like, I don't. Like, I just finished my point. Unless it's Steve Staunton-esque, unless it's like an absolute calamity of a campaign, you want to see progression, as you said, Dan. You want to see that 2021 at the end of it, you'll be in a better position than you were now. But our best 2 performances have been in the games that really mattered the most. The Slovakia game and the game the other night. And for me, like, why is Stephen Kenny in there in the first place? Well, there's a thread between the under-21s. There's a style of football which is easy on the eye and people enjoy. There's maybe a move away from trying to qualify for major tournaments as the be-all and end-all. Like Serbia topped the qualifying campaign for the last World Cup. They beat us. I saw them at the World Cup. They left no mark whatsoever. Maybe it's a pipe dream for me to be saying this, but over the next 10 years, surely that should be the goal, to have a thread between all the underage teams and the national team, playing generally the same type of football, but playing good football. Like, we tried Trapp, we tried O'Neill, we had great days in the sun, we had our jollies. But, like, did we ultimately play great football? It was more functional. And should it not be about playing good football at international level? Like, the Alan Brown goal the other night was great. And I would rather see great football being played over the longer term and not qualifying for Qatar rather than it being a functional thing.
Just on that briefly, JD, like, we're talking about qualifying from a group via the playoffs with Portugal as the top seed of the group. We traditionally find it hard to qualify for the World Cup, which is fair enough. If you take away the game that you mentioned from last year, we basically a series of glorified friendlies when all of these things were working against him. So if he were a club manager now, he'd basically only be starting off. It'd be like he's had a pre-season where a few things have gone wrong. He lost a playoff game at the end of the season, but now he's starting off. Whereas instead we have this really tight time frame of games where we're talking about patience. I mean, the man is barely in the job. I mean, we have to take a long-term approach to this. And we're starting up front the other night with Callum Robinson and Aaron Connolly, and they can bring Mitrovic off the bench. That's what we're dealing with here. So, like, we did actually well to be so close to a very good Serbian team, and people need to be realistic about the quality that was on the pitch. And I would imagine if you ask any of the players, do they prefer playing under Stephen Kenny, or do they prefer playing the way we played, for example, under Martin O'Neill or Trapp? They'd have one answer.
Okay, we've got to take a break. 53106. Plenty of texts coming in. We'll get to them after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Who needs Wes when you've got Jack Byrne, who also won't get his game? Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
This week on Future of Work, it's all about the Home Office.
What are the do's and don'ts of handling sensitive documents remotely? And how can you avoid that pesky back pain on your home desk?
We're joined by Graham Doyle from the Data Protection Commission and by Dr. Lawrence Woods, the biomechanics specialist and chiropractor, who shares his tips on keeping healthy while working from home.
Future of Work with Jess Kelly and Gavin McLaughlin.
Thanks to VHI Healthcare.
Tune in on Saturday at 7 or listen to the podcast now on newstalk.com.
If I learned one thing in the last year, it's that falling into debt can happen to anyone. Luckily, I heard about the ISI, the Insolvency Service of Ireland. Their professional advisors can help you restructure or even write off your debt. The first thing they said to me was, every debt problem has a solution. I can still feel the relief. So if you're worried, visit their website backontrack.ie or free text Get Help to 50015.
The ISI. Together, we'll get you back on track.
InsureMyHouse.ie. Afternoons are easy with InsureMyHouse.ie. For great quality buildings and contents insurance, InsureMyHouse.ie gets the best cover and lowest price. Visit InsureMyHouse.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremyhouse.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Planning to give your office a facelift? Need help optimising your workspace to meet the new health and safety guidelines? The team at Hunt Office Interiors can help with all of your planning, design and project management requirements. We provide a full range of solutions from office furniture and seating to state-of-the-art glass partitions. With ultra-modern showrooms in City West and Limerick, we'd love to show you what we're made of. To connect with our interiors team, simply email interiors@huntoffice.ie. Serving Ireland's business community for over 21 years. Huntoffice.ie.
Connect more with Air Mobile. Switch to Air for the latest iPhones, including the iPhone 12 mini from only €49. Plus no limits 5G data, unlimited calls and texts, and 99% 4G coverage. All on Ireland's largest 5G network. Call 1-800-500-300 or visit air.ie. Air. Let's make possible. Unlimited allowance subject to fair use. Handset price subject to switching to Air. Available on selected plans. 5G network coverage subject to availability. For terms, see air.ie.
Still being extra careful when I enter every home. Still supporting them through the night. Still bleary-eyed and teary-eyed. Still putting on a smile, even when they can't. Still making sure they're comfortable and comforted. Still can't see myself doing anything else.
Cancer is still here, but so are we, every step of the way. To get support or to donate, visit the Irish Cancer Society at cancer.ie.
Picture yourself on a stunning beach in Connemara, gazing up at the 12 Bends, hiking in the National Park, scenic walks and cycling the Connemara Greenway. Now imagine yourself at Ballynahinch Castle, enjoying all this and 700 acres of natural beauty. Surround yourself with space this summer at Ballynahinch Castle. Book now at ballynahinchcastle.com.
Today we're vaccinating people all over the country, having started with the most vulnerable. We're using all available vaccines as quickly as possible, and by the end of June, up to 80% of adults will have protection against COVID-19. So for now, wear a mask, limit your contacts and social distance. Then soon we'll see a brighter day. We're on the way. From the Government of Ireland. Follow our detailed vaccination plan at gov.ie.
At Centra, we have everything you need with great offers. Like Centra Fresh Irish Pork Loin Roast, half price now €5.39 per kilo. Cadbury selected treat size bags like Crunchy, only €2 each. And selected 12-pack cans of beer like Budweiser and Carlsberg, only €15 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Only the cream of the crop pick up Champions League medals. Jonathan Greening's got one. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5 with Stephen Elliott, the former Republic of Ireland striker, Dan McDonnell, the Irish independent football correspondent, and Johnny Ward, the broadcaster and journalist, speaking about the beautiful game of football thanks to Paddy Power. For more information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. You can text us 53106. Plenty of texts coming in on the national team. You can also tweet us at Off the Ball. Watch us on the social channels for Periscope on Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app and on News Talk. You can listen to us here on the radio. 53106. Here we go. Listening to OTB talking about Kenny is like Fox News reporting on Donald Trump, says Mick in Flingles. Hi lads, looking at the job Mick McCarthy's doing with Cardiff makes it even more ridiculous how Stephen Kenny was picked for the job in the first place. Even talking about the prospect of Luxembourg getting a result against us shows the level we've fallen to, says Kieran in Cork. Another one, can't see Ireland qualifying but hope we remain in contention until the end. The key for me is at the end of this campaign we need to have a much stronger established squad than at the start and believe in their manager. At Kerr's last game against the Swiss we had an abject, heartless performance. Anything along those lines would mean Kenny would need to go, says Tom. You all sound great. The Stephen Kenny Support Club. Absolutely no one else could go to 9 games without a win, not even a glimpse of a win, and still be constantly supported by 90% of the media. It's time for a win. I don't care how ugly the game is, just bloody win it. The same conditions apply to all country managers, says Jean. So this notion of playing our notorious style and getting results is nonsensical. I'd much rather we play with confidence and have a style of play we can be proud of. This was nothing more frustrating than watching long ball football. Give Kenny the time. We haven't qualified for World Cup in 20 years, says David in Glasnevin. And asked Johnny Ward if he'd prefer Galway to play nice football and stay in Division 1 or grind out promotion into the Premier Division.
Yeah, I'm not sure we saw either of that last night, to be honest, but
be honest, I don't really care how Go United play if they get promoted, but Go United aren't Ireland.
We're not Kenny FM. We're just. All I'm asking for is a bit of patience. That's all I'm asking for, and to see the guy through to the end of campaign and then make a judgment in a rational and calm manner. Mick McCarthy got 3 goes at the start of his first tenure.
Yeah, listen, I agree. There's got to be an element of patience, obviously, with everything that's going on and the injuries in the squad, the kind of world we're living in at the moment, and that. But I kind of do agree a little bit. For me, I'm a little bit leaning more now. I need a result. Like, I'm watching the games, and it's like, because I've been in that squad where ultimately you win off the pitch, right? You know, you're in the Ireland squad, and usually it's a full house, Lansdowne Road, and they come to watch you win to hopefully get you a little bit closer to your kind of next goal, which is qualifying for the tournament, and that only happens if you win games. So I'm at the stage now where, like, people are saying performance. I'm not overly bothered about performance tonight. If I'm honest, a lot of people are saying no, keep playing. I'd rather win the game tonight. I'd rather get this force win. Are you telling me Stephen Kenny would rather come off at the end of the match tonight and everybody say, oh, we could see there was pastures of play against Luxembourg, we done all right, new change, but we drew the game or we lost the game, or would you rather him come in and go, do you know what, one went in off the backside of somebody and we won the game, 3 points, we're up and running, force win. I guarantee he'd take the win, no doubt about it. So for me, again, I have to say I need to see a win. For me, I think it's a gigantic game tonight. I think it's a massive game, and I think it could be huge for the future of Stephen Kenny, if I'm honest.
Mark Travers, how much would his confidence have been dented by the other night, Stephen?
Yeah, I think it's going to have effect on him. I think I know there's been a little bit of debate whether he was totally at fault. I know positioning wise, I think he looked a bit shaky, if I'm honest. I think it didn't fill me a massive confidence when I watched him in the goal. I don't think he has a huge presence in his goal. And when you look at certain keepers, whether they're tall, small, big, but they have a presence, I didn't see that. I didn't feel that he had that presence about him. I think when he collided with the post just before half-time, I don't know whether that affected him coming out in the second half. That kind of shook him up a little bit. And I just think even there was another ball that flew across the face of the goal where I think one of the Serbian forwards missed it by a half an inch, remember, at the back post. And I think his angle was a little bit wrong in that. And then, yeah, the 2 goals, the chips, listen, that's going to affect any keeper. You get chipped like that, and especially when you make your international kind of debut, it's going to have effect. And I'd be wondering whether he'll even start tonight. I'd be thinking, look, maybe putting one of the other boys in tonight. If I'm honest, I do think it probably had that big effect on him.
I think I was surprised, yeah, because I remember when Mark Travers played for Bournemouth against Spurs, did a piece then and speaking to coaches and stuff, and I mean, it's funny, the one thing they would talk about, I think you could even see it in that Bournemouth game, he was very confident, and they'd always said that when Mark was even younger, he'd always commit to a decision, and he had this presence. And I completely agree with Stephen. I just thought the other night from the first half, he looked a bit, I don't know, he was a bit hesitant. Like, there was definitely there was one early chance where he didn't come off his line, and I don't know if you remember, Coleman had to clear it out for a corner, and definitely he was sort of, and I almost wondered to some degree, was the second half a bit more of a reaction that he was like, get off your line and be, because I think his normal style is that he's like that. He is sort of one of those modern keepers that sort of, will be on the edge of his box, and that's his sort of presence. And he wasn't that way. So, I mean, Gavin Bazunu is the alternative who would come in. Stephen Kenny was asked yesterday, he said definitively Travers would play on Wednesday. He left it open for interpretation yesterday what he might do. So, I would have expected Bazunu to probably play against Qatar on Tuesday, because there is still this weird third game coming, which is basically a friendly. But you wonder, might it happen a bit earlier than that? Certainly, it's one position where we have exciting options. And the one thing you would say about Bazunu, like Travers, he's been on loan at League One this year, but he's been playing regularly up to this international break, where Travers was recalled at the start of February. And there was a lot of players the other night who hadn't played since the start of February, just for whatever reason. Connolly, Robinson, and Travers was one. And maybe Bazunu, who's been very, very, very busy for a Rochdale side that are pretty open. You wonder, does he come into the equation?
I was just saying, I don't know if you've noticed.
Sorry, Stephen.
I was just going to say, no, I don't know if you've seen the picture. The FAI posted a picture of the 3 goalkeepers training with Dean Kiley. Dean Kiley was kind of giving a bit of information to them, and I just looked at the picture and I just thought, you know what, that looks like 3 boys like behind Dean Kiley, and I don't know, something hit home my head. I thought, you know what, we actually. You can't underestimate how important it is to have a goalkeeper like. And obviously, listen, it can't be helped. Randolph's not available, Keller's not available, who hasn't got massive experience himself, but he's played Champions League for Liverpool, so he's a little bit more kind of big game experience than the other boys. But I looked at that picture and I thought, oh, Jesus, we're a little bit kind of up against it straight away by just not having somebody experience available. And I don't know, it's a slight worry for me, the goalkeeper situation, if I'm honest. And I definitely think, going back to Travers, I think I'll be seriously thinking about not playing him tonight. And I know people would say, put him straight back in. You don't want him to kind of... But at the same time, it's international football. And he in my opinion, he's made a couple of errors. And you got to give somebody else a go, because... I don't know, we can't afford to be waiting around. And I kind of using it as a stepping stone. It's the real business now. We need to start winning games.
Well, say that game, right? So you've a centre-back pairing who are basically so inexperienced in terms of playing together. You've Darragh O'Shea, who's basically only starting off his career. And then you obviously have Coleman, who's slightly playing the position that he doesn't play that often, but you need a goalkeeper behind you. And we're not apologists for Stephen Kenny. The fact that Dan and I would come from a League of Ireland background, you can completely overplay that point. I'm looking at Stephen Kenny in terms of as dispassionately as if he were any other coach. And the ill fortune this man has had to have 2 keepers of that caliber both injured at the same time is outrageously bad luck. And to be reliant on Travers, who comes in and with obvious confidence issues coming into the game, he didn't know whether to stick or twist for so many kind of, split-second decisions. Like, that mistake for the second goal was absolutely horrendous. You can't. I mean, Kenny's obviously not going to say it, but you would not expect that in League of Ireland First Division games, a keeper to be so badly caught out of position. And I know you can say it wasn't entirely his fault, but that was incredibly bad goalkeeping. And this is a kid who's only starting up. The fact that Kenny lost McGoldrick, who would have definitely started and been a really important player in that game, but then you add in the injuries, and to lose Kelleher in addition to losing the starting keeper Randolph, like, that's desperately unlucky. And you have to say, if we have a good keeper, we could easily get a result in that game, and he hasn't gotten anywhere near the luck that other Irish managers have gotten so far. And we have to bear that in mind, because he's had to deal with a ridiculous amount of bad luck in the few months he's been in the job.
But Johnny, you mentioned that back 3 there, so to speak, and obviously O'Shea, who's not massive experience, obviously Coleman coming in and playing our position, like, he hasn't played regularly. But that was down to Stephen Kenny. That was his choice to play that formation. Like, he did have, like, obviously we go back to Shane Duffy. I thought I would have probably playing Shane Duffy the other night. I don't know whether, like, I spoke with Dan about whether he'll suit being in a back 3. I'm not sure, but I would have got him into the team purely because of, like, the Serbians knowing they were a physical team. They're strong. All the players kind of they've always been known as, like, kind of big lads, big strong European lads, and they're always up against. Every time we played them before. Sorry?
Clark did struggle airily. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So even the first goal, like, even the first goal when Clark got beat by Tadic for the goal, would Duffy have won that header? Would he just, like, and let's be honest, if Duffy's coming up, he's leaving a few elbows on people, he's rough, he's ready, and he's been great for us as well. He's cleared, like, you can't forget, like, even though he hasn't been great in Stephen Kenny's reign, he hasn't been unbelievable, obviously, trying to play out. He hasn't been ideal. But defensively, I still think he's our strongest option at the back, experience.
But that's a back 4, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is. That's what I'm saying.
For Kieran Clark, he's not going to play the left of the back 3.
Yeah, but he chose to play. He chose to play a back 3, like, purposely to try and kind of, I think, accommodate Doherty and Coleman. And it's like, do you just have to leave one of them out? I don't know. I think these are all decisions that the manager has made, and you can't say he's had bad luck, but you can kind of, like, for example, if you haven't got an experienced goalkeeper, then I'd be thinking I'd definitely play Shane Duffy now, somebody with that experience and playing, like, they're the things that I'd be looking at and thinking, well, he could have kind of helped himself a little bit more in that situation. But again, he's made a decision and he's going in this direction, and he wants to kind of, it seems to me, he wants to kind of play these young lads, get them experience, and that's great, but we need results. We do need results. It's a World Cup qualifying campaign, and I know what John is saying as well. He's happy, like, to give him a bit of time and, like, enjoy playing football. But I know when you're a player in that squad, you come in and you don't win again. It's soul destroying. 9 games without a win under him. It's not good. Like, I know for a fact you need to win games.
Stephen, Stephen, what then would you want to do this evening? Then, do you want to play 3-5-2? Do you think he should change the formation? And who should be coming into the team that wasn't in the team the other night?
Well, I'd probably play Knight in midfield. Malumbi, I'm not too sure on Malumbi, if I'm honest. Listen, he could have a future. I think he works hard as well, but at international level, I look at him and I think, at this moment in time, has he got enough to kind of technical ability to get on the ball and kind of do what you need to do as a midfielder? I don't know. I wasn't massively impressed with him the other night, if I'm honest. See, again, against Luxembourg's a different. I'm expecting us to have a bit of possession tonight, so we may be a little bit like, you know what, he could kind of go with similar tonight and probably still get the job done, because you'd like to think the calibre of players we have, compared, not saying Luxembourg will be a walkover, but you'd still like to think the calibre of players we have, whoever we put out, will still have enough to have the majority of possession. But I'm talking about the Serbian game. Like we needed to get something out of that game, and I don't know. I'd probably play Shane Long tonight as well. I was speaking to Dan. I just think his experience. I still think out of all the forwards we have there, I know James Collins could play, but out of all the forwards, I think Shane Long, he's been in the goals recently as well since he's moved back to the Championship, which is a level that a lot of the players are playing at anyway at this moment in time. He scored goals. He scored big goals for Ireland. He's a problem. If you're playing against Shane Long, if you're coming up tonight against Ireland and you're in that, do you know what I mean? I would be thinking, here we go, this guy's going to be running all over us. And straight away, it's a negative thought in the opposition's mind, where if you look and you see James Collins, you'd be like, no disrespect to Collins, but I'd be like, not too sure about him. Is he going to have the running power that Shane? Is he going to cause us as much problems? Yeah, he's big, strong, but it's all in front. Like, his game is more in front of like defenders, and defenders like to see players in front of them. Whereas I'd 100% play Shane Long tonight, because I just think he's our best option.
I think Stephen sort of touches on an important point though as well when we talk about the players' mindset of this. And when people talk about, writing off a campaign and such, how you have to be so careful, because if you're a 30, 31-year-old player, like, this might be your last chance. This could be your last campaign. So, like, some of those lads, will hear people talking about the future too much. And there's a balancing act there, in terms of getting that right. Someone like Shane Long is what? Shane Long was born in 1987. I think Shane Long is like 34 now. So, like, this is like a last chance to get to a World Cup, let's be honest, for even Seamus Coleman, potentially the last chance to get to a World Cup. So those lads are going to be like, and to be fair, right, I think some of this has been said by, I've never heard Stephen Kenny say, well, we could just write off this campaign. Like, his mindset is he thinks he can qualify. He does think that he can actually do that. But obviously by playing younger players, it hints at a broader thing. But I think it's obviously something we were talking a small bit about this off air as well, that, like, obviously you have to bring players with you, and if it was a big call to leave out Hendrick, big call to leave out Shane Duffy.
Robbie Brady.
Yeah, Robbie Brady. He spoke about Brady yesterday. He was suggesting with Brady that Brady hasn't been able to train properly. He's had this Achilles problem. And I think Kenny really rates Brady. I don't think there's an issue there. I think he really wants to play Brady, but I think Brady's injury issues are what's held him back. I could be wrong. I have a feeling Brady might be involved tonight. But I think obviously, you make a call to leave out players like Duffy and Hendrick. You obviously have to handle it in the right way, because these are still, established players around the camp. Now, it seems like, he spoke very complimentary terms about Shane Duffy, about how he's been brilliant behind the scenes. Darrell O'Shea spoke about how Duffy had been really helpful with him. So these are all the things that are important in terms of harmony as well, that if you are playing young players, you just have to be mindful of, the older players in the camp who will have bigger voices, and, who younger players will naturally gravitate towards and stuff. Like, transition is difficult, like, Mick McCarthy, when he came in first, he brought in the players, but he had to phase out some players that he was mates with, that he played alongside with and stuff. And that was a challenge for him. I think he spoke about it afterwards. And if you're undergoing a period of transition or overseeing it, like, to make sure everyone comes with you, you have to get all the language and everything right, because some of the players are thinking, this might be my last chance. So I don't want to think we're going into this campaign here thinking the next one, like, this is it for me. So, like, they have to be very mindful, I think, and these are all the challenges of management. But look, that's what he's been paid to do.
Yeah, that's a fair point on the players' mindset, absolutely. And we can, I suppose, as journalists and fans, get a little bit idealistic about what it is. Some text though, like, it's a hot topic, obviously. Like, 53106. If we don't get a win tonight, Kenny has to go. McGeady not in the squad, absolutely a joke, says one of our texters. I think irrelevant in comparison is the time Michael O'Neill was given. This is Northern Ireland. I made this point the other day. 1 win in his first 18. The players are comparable. Give the guys some time, says Alan and New Ross. Why did he not play a more experienced goalkeeper from the League of Ireland with the importance of the game, says Paul. Doherty must be moved to centre mid, holding or attacking, says Martin in Meath. And Duffy couldn't get a game at Celtic. Imagine what Tadic would have done to him. He can't play again if we've got Premier League defenders that are playing, says Joe from Ashtown. And please ask Stephen if he was nervous like Travers was when he played for the international team. How many times Travers has played for the senior team? Well, obviously he hasn't. In a competitive manner. But no doubt he was at fault for the chip goal, but there was anybody else more experienced available. Kenny needs to be given time to develop the team. Just on the rest of the team, Stephen Elliott, would you bring in anybody else? We're talking about Shane Long there, possibly Duffy. Anybody else into the middle of the park?
No, I mentioned Knight. I think he's done okay at Derby County this year. I think Cullen has done enough to kind of keep his place. I really like Cullen. I think he's going to be a really important player going forward for Ireland. He's playing at a good level as well under a really experienced, I wouldn't say experienced manager, but a player that has played and won many Premier Leagues and Vincent Kompany. So I think I thought out of all the midfielders, he really impressed me. I don't know, he just has a nice way about the pitch on him. And I think he suits international football. But I'd like to see Knight in there. Like Robbie Brady, for me, it's one of them. I always feel like he's carrying a knock, or you always feel like is he going to last the pace? Is he going to kind of pull up or something? Because for me, Robbie Brady is, ability-wise, I think he's probably got most ability than anybody in the squad on his day. He's crossing, his technique when he wants it to be can be phenomenal. And it's just I just feel like we've never seen the best of Robbie Brady, unfortunately. And again, will we ever see that? Will it be one of them cases where we're kind of going to go, well, he kind of came and gone without actually fulfilling his potential in an Ireland jersey? But if Robbie Brady came in somewhere in the team, I wouldn't be too disappointed, because I do think if he can play anywhere near as well as he can do, he can be a massive player, especially against a team like Luxembourg, like I said, where I'd expect us to have a lot of the ball. OK, we've got to go to the news. Stephen Elliott, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward. Great debate in the first hour about the Republic of Ireland. More on that as well after 4 chance against Luxembourg tonight. Talk a bit about the opposition, the League of Ireland, the new season, the Celtic manager's job and cult heroes in football. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk is back after the news. Stay with us.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Champions League nights on Off the Ball. Bigger than Zlatan's ego. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie. Great adventures are coming, and News Talk has teamed up with the new Volkswagen ID4 to make sure you're ready by giving you the chance to win €2,000 at newstalk.com/adventure. With thanks to the all-new Volkswagen ID4 with a range of up to 500 kilometres.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Oh, Brady family ham, well, it's his your only ham. Cured for 3 full days and there's no added water. Always carved from one pork joint, other hams, well, what's the point? It's the nation's ham from Mizzen up to Malinhead. Come out to other hams, come and face me ham to ham. Show them how you're made with mold and added water. And tell them how Brady family ham chased you away from the green and lonely fields of Kildara.
Brady family ham. It's your only ham.
More than 2,900 people develop bowel cancer every year in Ireland. The Marie Keating Foundation is urging anyone with concerns to talk to your GP. If you have unexplained weight loss, a change in normal bowel habits, blood in your stool or pain in your abdomen, please see your GP. When caught early, bowel cancer is very curable. For more, visit mariekeating.ie. Kindly supported by Servier Laboratories Ireland.
Are you ready to make a difference to people's lives around the world? MSD Ireland is at the forefront of technology, problem solving and discovery. Our team at MSD Dunboyne Biologics are recruiting. Join us and work with our first-class teams who are committed to making a difference and impacting tomorrow today. Apply now at jobs.msd.com/Ireland. MSD Ireland. Inventing for life.
Introducing Cuisinart's new cordless collection. Now you can chop, whisk, mix or blend wherever the inspiration takes you, with no cable getting in the way. Discover the cordless range at pariscity.ie.
Whether you're walking the dog, at the shops, or enjoying a coffee in the park, PhoneWatch is always home. And our next generation of wireless monitored alarms just got smarter, with HD cameras as well as real-time alerts and control with the PhoneWatch app. All these new features come with the same level of service and support you'd expect from PhoneWatch. For a limited time, get PhoneWatch installed for only €149. Visit phonewatch.ie today. Offer ends 6th of April. Monitoring fees apply.
Welcome to Go Loud Jazz, the new home for jazz music in all its forms. Big band, bebop, smooth, and everything in between. Featuring a mix of new tunes and famous tracks by legendary artists, from Monk and Davis, Parker and Coltrane, to Ella and Billy. Go Loud Jazz. Fascinating rhythms. Download the Go Loud app now for free. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio, and music to your ears.
COVID-19 infection levels remain stubbornly high. There are better days ahead. Ireland's vaccination programme is up and running, but in the meantime, we must avoid another surge. To stay safe, we need to stay at home and work from home. Avoid all travel, unless it is for absolutely essential purposes. Please, do not have visitors in your home. Remember, all social interactions carry risk. Always observe social distancing, wear face coverings in shops and in crowded indoor and outdoor places. Stay the course, stay safe, save lives. Find out more on gov.ie/COVID-19. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Some people are sticklers with wine. Argentina for this, South Africa for that, Australia, New Zealand for the other. Personally, I never travel further than Centra, though I insist that my white wine is always chilly.
Explore the Centra New World Wine Sale with great prices on familiar labels like Connoisseur, Yellowtail, Oyster Bay and more.
Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Life feels better when you know your loved ones are being looked after. Well, now you can protect your family's future for just €10.10 per month with Leia Life Insurance. Simply answer a few short questions. There's no medical required. And unlike any other insurer, you're covered by Leia Life instantly, which means your family will get a lump sum payment should you pass away. Join us online and you'll get a 10% discount and a further 10% if you're already a Leia Healthcare member. Visit leialife.ie or call us now on 1890 907 100.
Insurance provided by iptiQ Life SA. Leia Healthcare Limited, trading as Leia Life and Leia Healthcare, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards National Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Burke. A spokesman for the Taoiseach says the chief executive of the Beacon Hospital must be held accountable by its board of management. Micheál Martin's office says there are specific rules in place for the vaccine rollout, rules which were broken by Michael Cullen. The behaviour has been described as wrong and a breach of trust, which undermines confidence in the programme. Sinn Féin's Mary Lou McDonald agrees.
It should not be in the gift of any individual to arbitrarily decide that their contacts or their friends or their family members or those in the know get ahead in the queue ahead of others. That's completely inappropriate. It's absolutely wrong. And it's very concerning that this is not the first time that we've seen this happen.
Gardaí are investigating reports that 3 people have left mandatory hotel quarantine in Dublin. People arriving from a list of 33 high-risk countries are now required to complete a 14-day isolation period. The first subject to the new rules were those arriving on flights into Dublin Airport from 4 o'clock yesterday morning. Those who break quarantine face fines of up to €2,500 or up to 6 months in jail. A 19-year-old man's appeared in court following the seizure of €360,000 worth of ketamine. Nearly 6 kilos of the drug was uncovered in the Dublin 5 area yesterday. The man's been charged under the Drug Trafficking Act and was brought before Dublin District Court earlier. A stricken trawler off Cork is being towed back to the coast in rough seas by the Naval Service. The Ellie of lost power yesterday early yesterday, and attempts to attach a tow afterwards were halted by poor conditions. Micheál O'Toole from the Coast Guard says the operation will take up to 9 hours.
The initial position would have been between 60 and 70 miles offshore. However, the towing would have commenced in approximately 40 miles. Just given the conditions and given the prevailing weather and sea state, it's prudent to conduct tow in a controlled and managed fashion.
And Britain's Culture Minister says Britain could demand the Bayeux Tapestry back from France. In an interview with the Times of London, Oliver Dowden says the UK has the same claim to the 800-year-old artwork as Greece does to the Elgin marbles from the Parthenon. Greece says the marble sculptures now on display in the British Museum are the product of theft, and the EU's backed the call. It's 4:02.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For our most competitive discounts on car insurance, go online to the aa.ie.
Turning wet and windy with outbreaks of rain spreading eastwards. It'll be persistent and heavy this evening in Connacht, West Ulster and Munster, with temperatures of 7 to 11 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Only the cream of the crop pick up Champions League medals. Jonathan Greening's got one. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5, speaking about the beautiful game in the company of Stephen Elliott, the former Republic of Ireland striker, Dan McDonnell, the Irish Independent football correspondent, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward. Sticking with the Ireland theme, because it's been so hot over the last hour, I wonder, is there a civil war going on between the pro and anti-Kenny forces? It kind of feels that way when you're looking at the text, but then again, they're the most engaged people. 53106. This sums up the last decade and emphasises why Kenny needs time. Ireland's competitive home win since the Aviva Stadium opened in 2010. Andorra, Macedonia, Armenia, Faroe Islands, Kazakhstan, Gibraltar by 2, Georgia by 3, Germany, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Moldova. Credit Owen Cowser on Twitter. Another tweet: modern football essentially a non-contact sport. We can't win matches playing our traditional physical style, getting pinged for frees while competing for headers every other minute. Kenny's way is the only way. Dan, Luxembourg, they're not, as they say in boxing, tomato cans anymore. I'm looking through the results. Cyprus win, Belarus, Azerbaijan, Montenegro, they've beaten all of them. They drew with France in Paris a few years ago. They can hold on to the ball. What should we expect, and what's the best way to play against them?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, all right. I think, listen, most people would expect Ireland to beat Luxembourg, and ultimately they should. Like, let's not get carried away. But Luxembourg were fourth seeds in this group. You know, they are seeded higher than Azerbaijan. You'd almost have it in your head that Azerbaijan would be a tougher opponent, just in that sort of cliche, you know, tough place to go type thing. But Luxembourg were seeded at the same level as Georgia. You know, Bosnia, they were other teams in pot 4. They were the lowest ranked team in pot 4. But yeah, it's an interesting one. If you want to get a form guide on Luxembourg, they're having a bit of a deja vu group here, like Ireland always getting Wales and Denmark. They were in the same Euros group, Euro 2020 group, as Portugal and Serbia. So there's a good reference point there. Now, they lost against Serbia against Portugal 2-0 and 3-0. So, you know, Portugal won both those games reasonably comfortably. But interestingly, they lost 3-2 away to Serbia, Mitrovic scoring twice. So, I mean, we know what that's like. And then the home game with Serbia, they lost 3-1. But I was looking at the stats. I had to check it out 2-3 times to check that this was legitimate. They had 23 shots against Serbia. Now, listen, you know, someone could take a pop from halfway and it gets counted as a shot. But I think it backs up the view, and Stephen Kenny was saying this yesterday, that however good they are, they're not a team that's going to sit in and sort of, 11 behind the ball and, break them down that way. They do like to have a go and sort of be quite, expansive. And look at where their players play. Like, they have players playing in reasonable leagues spread across, there's a MLS defender, there's a guy in, I think there's a Dynamo Kiev player in the books. Number of them playing in sort of Central Europe leagues. So, like, they're not like they're a proper outfit. Like, sometimes you would play, we play Andorra, San Marino, Gibraltar. Like, they're almost like part-time teams or something. I think Luxembourg used to be that, but they're not now. In saying that, they're ranked 98th in the world, and Ireland are at home to them, so they should be expecting to win, of course. What Stephen Kenny did say yesterday is that, I think there's something they need to avoid, is that they Ireland need to play at speed against them. That it does sound like it could be quite an open game. So Ireland need to play with a degree of pace. And you would sometimes assume that if you're home to these type of teams that it's going to be a case that you're going to be around the box a lot. And James Collins, let's have the presence in the box because they're going to be camped a bit, and this is what you need. Whereas actually, it may not be that type of game necessarily, and you need actually a bit of speed and attacking players. Someone like Jason Knight, maybe as Stephen mentioned, who can break, is a good box-to-box runner, picking up positions that there might actually be space to exploit, as opposed to it being a parking the bus job. And Luxembourg's reputation doesn't seem to be that. So that's we'll just have to see. It's interesting, just to go back to one of the texts about the Civil War thing. I was writing about.
No, that was just me. Sorry, that was me.
Well, sorry. Well, okay, but I'm just saying the general tone of your comments. I actually think about this as an interesting one as well. And maybe there's people out there who can answer this, who can text in and say, in an ideal world where we didn't have COVID, and we can take that debate with everything we do in life at the moment, would people be interested in paying to go and watch the game tonight? Because I think that this is obviously, these are the factors that are going to determine Stephen Kenny's future. Again, the economics comes into it. It's about winning and getting to tournaments, but I also think as well, part of the problem in the last decade was that even when the team was reasonably successful at times, the stadium was hopping for the playoffs and the big games, but there was some of the lesser matches, you had 20, 25,000. The FAI were giving out loads of freebies, to fill up the stadium because people weren't going. A lot of people got out of the habit of going, and I kind of wonder that yes, there is an entrenched camp, and it's very firmly, there's different views, but I kind of wonder, is there enough people who are in the positive camp that who maybe had stopped going that would like to go and watch this team? And would that be a factor down the line? And this is the thing. I don't know the answer to this. I can have my opinions, but sometimes you can end up in an echo chamber speaking to a load of people that agree with you, and you convince yourself that this would be the case. But I get the feeling there's a certain amount of support out there that if people could go, would you have reasonable crowds going? But would they accept it forever? After a couple of bad defeats, did they drop off? But this is the economics of the job as well too. It's the senior team matters a lot to the FAI, A, because they can qualify for tournaments, but B, because it's the revenue from games, at the start of the year is massive, and there's a big difference between 45,000 attending games and 30,000 attending games, and that's been the case at times in the last decade, and that's just another factor to consider here, that if people are enjoying it, does that make them more likely to go? I don't know. I'm interested to hear people's views on that. In the media, sometimes we get to go anyway. But I kind of wonder, is there people out there who've stopped going that will be more likely to go, or people who do go and say, no, I'm not going, I've no interest in going at the moment? That's an interesting one to consider, because I think that these are the elements that we would normally judge a manager by that, right? We would normally judge a manager by the crowd. There's a small crowd here. There's a boo in the stadium at full time, or people are leaving early. We don't have any of those elements now. It's become a real online text debate about Stephen Kenny, and people are saying it's a civil war, and maybe it is, or maybe the stadium would be hugely supportive of him. So, and these are the things that we don't have the answers to, and that's just something. It's the other weirdness about Stephen Kenny's tenure here, that the debate about has been conducted in a very different way to any other manager, where generally it's stadium vibes will tell you a lot about where things are going.
The noise in the background is Johnny. You're at Bohemians, Johnny. I'm kind of feeling that what Stephen Elliott said was really interesting there about the mentality of the players, and I do think it's about getting over tonight and then letting the dust settle and letting it breathe for a while.
I don't know. I mean, I think a civil war is quite strong.
It was a bit half, a bit tongue in cheek.
Yeah, if you're talking about the kind of the Roy Keane days in Saipan, that was proper football civil war. But this is I think people are supportive of Stephen Kenny. I think football people want us to play good football. If people want us to qualify for tournaments, playing the way we did in Cardiff when we beat them 1-0 under Martin O'Neill, fair enough, but I don't know what game they want to watch. We have a manager who wants us to play football, wants to give the players confidence that they can play. And I think Dan's question is interesting. Now, how many people would turn up for the game tonight? I think it would be a good crowd. And people have gotten out of support in Ireland because it hasn't been a good experience. I mean, if you compare fairly obvious one. If you compare following the Irish rugby team and going to a game there compared to the buzz around that, compared to watching Ireland in the last few years, apart from the odd game, it's not an attractive package at all. The tickets were basically, there's so many tickets given away for free because otherwise it would be embarrassing how few people would go to some of these games. I think that would have changed now because we are a good team to watch. You know, even if we lost the other night 3-2, we played nice football. There was a beauty in that goal, that it was almost, you know, you had to have a double take to see, did Ireland actually score a goal like that? But we shouldn't be accustomed to thinking that this is not possible from Ireland players. And I think we've had too many managers who've kind of focused on the limitations that we have, made it hard to beat, you know, score from set pieces. If Kenny can get his best players on the pitch at some stage in this campaign, and if he is given time, I fully believe that the people will get behind this team, because I think, and I don't think the lads will disagree with me on this, I think the vast majority of people want to see Ireland win playing well, not want to see them win by playing poisonous football that makes it hard to watch and basically sullies our name across Europe. And we've been that a long, long time now. If you ask a football fan across Europe about the Irish international team, skill isn't going to come into it. And I don't want to be associated with an Ireland team that plays in a way that's anti-football. I want to be associated with a team that plays football the right way and is given time within the parameters of what's possible. And people need to be realistic here. We're third seeds in the group. Serbia, pound for pound, were a better team than us the other night. We had a lot of players playing that wouldn't otherwise be playing but for the circumstances. People need to be realistic. And Stephen Kenny is a good man. He deserves time. He's everything he's trying to do, to me, is positive. And we can't be getting hung up about civil wars or, you know, the run that we've been on, when for me there's so much positive. And I've seen what Kenny has achieved in Dundalk. What they achieved in Europe against the odds was nothing short of astounding. It was real David against Goliath stuff. He's in a bigger arena now. He still has to prove maybe that he can do it at international level, but I fully believe if he's given time, he will do it, and he'll do it with Irish football having a smile on its face, which it hasn't had for a long, long time.
We are getting a response to that, Daniel, that shout out. I go to all the Irish home games, at least one game away a year, have for 30 years. Stephen Kenny, the best thing that's happened since Mick McCarthy's first reign, really trying to play football, has the support of the real actual fans who go to the matches, give him time. I go to all the home games, no matter what I think Kenny's on the wrong track, but I support Ireland. I don't consider it entertainment. It's more of a compulsion to go. The mindset of the players right now, just hours before kick-off, Stephen Elliott, Seamus Coleman has been, I think, brilliant at that press conference the other day, just taking to the cleaners that newspaper report about him a few months ago, and also then the way he played in the back three the other night. He's very important now in that dressing room this evening. How vocal will that dressing room be? What's it going to be like, do you think, given what you saw the other night?
Yeah, I think Seamus Coleman has hugely helped Stephen Kenny coming out. Obviously, what he said last week, and listen, that's Seamus Coleman all over. He's a proper skipper. Like he's led the national team now for the past few years, and he's always had that class about him. And yeah, listen, we talk about, like, I know people have mentioned like the mindset of the players and all. I'm sure they like, I know Johnny says he thinks players will enjoy playing for Stephen Kenny a little bit more playing for other man. I think that's a question that depends on who the players are, like, you know, because ultimately when you're a professional footballer, whether that's at club level or international level, like, listen, the supporters come and have their say, and listen, they want to see the team play good football and wherever way they come, but ultimately you want results. But players, it's a different mindset when you're a player. When you're a player, you're out there to do a job, and the job is to win a game. So you can't really get too caught up as a player about what the supporters want, whether they like the manager's style or whether they dislike the manager. Because ultimately, you're a player. You're playing. The manager is your boss at that specific time. So Stephen Kenny there now is the player's boss in the national squad. So he has to get them rallying behind him, whether you're in the starting lineup or whether you're not in the starting lineup. He has to get everybody behind him. And I don't know whether he's got that 100%. Obviously, you would suspect that with Seamus coming out and saying what he did, then that's a big player to have on side, which he seems to be. But again, I don't know. I think it was a little bit disrespectful to other previous managers to be totally, listen, I don't want to play this toxic football, because I just think you can't label a toxic football. Listen, under Martin O'Neill, things weren't great in my opinion, especially towards the end of his tenure, when it was a little bit like kind of, you run against kind of batting your head against a wall where you think nothing's really improving here, same old. To be fair to Mick, I think Mick came in and I think there was a little bit of a change when Mick came back in second time. There was a little bit of a change of tempo to our performances, and we done okay. Like we picked up some okay results, got obviously to the playoffs, and obviously we didn't get over the line of that when Stephen came in. But I do think it's a little bit harsh on previous managers, because you have to remember some of these managers have managed at a really high level. Trapattoni, Martin O'Neill, Mick McCarthy, they've won titles in Europe, in big leagues in Europe, managing World Cups, and I think it's one of them. I know Johnny mentioned there was Stephen Kenny. He done great with Dundalk and the Irish League, and obviously had he's good run in Europe. But it's a different kettle of fish when you're managing a national team, especially the Irish national team, where we have had success, like really good success over the past 30 years. And I do think it's kind of, you're going in with Dundalk in European football, and it's a little bit of a kind of an underdog thing. So you're going in, and everything you do, you're going to be kind of patted on the back. And he done great. Don't get me wrong, Stephen Kenny done magnificent in Europe to do what he did with Dundalk. But there's a little bit more expectation when you're managing Ireland, and I don't think you can compare the two. And like I mentioned earlier on, listen, I'm all for Ireland to play really good football, but again, if it doesn't quite work for Stephen Kenny, I'm not saying, like, say if Stephen Kenny, this doesn't work out, say, right, Stephen Kenny, you're sacked, let's go back to this hoofball, so to speak, as what some people would say. But I do think maybe if we're going down this road, there might be other guys out there that could potentially do what Stephen Kenny is trying to do with the national team, and maybe potentially be a little bit more qualified to do it that bit better. Again, that's just me kind of... Yeah?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not saying the way that Mick McCarthy, or to a greater extent Trapattoni or Martin O'Neill played, was the right or the wrong way in terms of achieving qualification, which was basically the be all and end all under the John Delaney run FAI. We desperately needed to qualify for tournaments. That's fine, but Anne alluded to, if we were to continue to play in a style of football, not so much with Mick, but the way we were going at international level, you can't take for granted the support for the Irish team, because it wasn't really watchable in to a large extent. A lot of the games were poor, and the public weren't buying into it anymore. So if we're going to have such a philosophical change, which this is a drastic change in terms of our approach to the game compared to what it was. This cannot happen overnight. It's going to happen right from the bottom up in terms of the underage teams, and you can watch the underage teams and you can see the progress they're making. This needs time, and if anyone thinks that Stephen Kenny can turn this around in the space of a few games or even one qualification campaign, which this effectively is, he or she doesn't understand the game.
Okay, 53106. Lads, come on, playing good football. We are League One level. The glory days under Jack, we played atrocious stuff but got results. Well, I wouldn't agree with that. We've never played good football because we don't have the players, and never will. I go to every home game, but at least one away game every year as well. Been at all the tournaments since 2000. I support Kenny, but this beautiful game stuff is getting ridiculous. We want to use the ball better, but we also need results under Trap, Italy, home and away, France away, etc. Toxic? I think not, says Michael. Good football is overrated. I expect and want my national team not to be beaten by old enemies north of England, Northern Ireland, England, Wales, etc. and win the odd big match. I'll watch nice football in the club game. And yeah, that's interesting, John. Though I think it's a good to get those range of views, like those opinions that do exist out there, because I think these are the things that will be very important when it comes to the consideration of it. But the one thing I would say is about people. I don't know why we have to get beyond talking about Jack Charlton's time all the time. I mean, listen, I'm really looking forward to watching the show tomorrow. It's an amazing time in all of our lives, but like it's a long time ago now in the football sense. And there's actually, I think there's also a broader point as well, that a lot of our better players coming through, or the ones that appear to be the better players coming through anyway, because you never know what's going to happen. Like, what style are they naturally suited to? Like, what style is Jason Knight and Darragh O'Shea as a ball-playing defender? Troy Parrott again. We'll see Aaron Connolly. Like, I understand where we're coming from, but like, for example, like Trapp and Martin O'Neill, like really effective. Like someone like John Walters was hugely effective, for them, and you can list through like, strong players, you go back in time, like we had outstanding centre halves, John O'Shea and Richard Dunn and stuff. Like, I don't know, in the generation coming through, like, do we have the strength in the areas that necessarily suggest that that Ireland could play in that really direct style and could be effective? Now, you can be horrible to play against, and like, I know it's not just that sounds a very simplistic analysis of discussing it, but I'm just saying that to some degree you also have to tailor your style
to what players you have. That's what good managers will generally do. And we don't necessarily have like the outstanding target men striker, maybe, you know, that you can sort of build your game around, going very direct to them. And that's certainly has to come into it. And you know, I think any manager, you know, any good manager, I think would take that view that, but internationally you can't sign players. Look at who your best players are, and you think, what's the best system? In fairness, like, you know, I think Mick, like, you know, sometimes Mick, I think, gets a lot of criticism because because Kenny was coming after him and stuff. I think like Mick did try to mix things up at times, you know, for certain games, and you know would play certain players that suited a particular style or whatever. Like, you know, David McGoldrick thrived under Mick, for example. You know, but he also knew that he was a good player, so he built his team around McGoldrick. I think it's just a point about the style of play going forward, that it can't just be black and white. We want to play this way. Like, we also have to play the way that suits the players that we have. And I'm not necessarily sure that Ireland have like the outstanding players in certain areas to play in a more direct style. I think that's actually just something, and I don't know what you think, Stephen. Maybe you could take a different view. Maybe players can just will naturally have, you know, being harder to beat can be an easier thing to do. I don't know. You do, like, what's the footballer's view on that?
Yeah, listen. The thing is, when you're playing, like, if you're a footballer in a team, like, I've played up front in teams before, like, being that lone man up front where you feel like you're isolated and you're not getting any of the ball, and it does become a little bit frustrating. And there has been games in the past few years where we've watched Shane Long run around up front and it was like he was playing on a different pitch to the rest of the team, and there's been many games like that. And listen, it's not great to watch, and I don't think Shane Long particularly would have enjoyed playing in them games. But if that is a style that your manager is asking you to play about, because there's a plan in place there to kind of sit in, hopefully kind of get on the break. And listen, every manager, like Dan has mentioned there, you suit the kind of players you have at your disposal, and you play to your strengths. And it's one of them where I think you're looking at, have we got the players now to kind of get it up there and get second? I think no matter what players you have, I'm talking about, say if the ball goes into midfield tonight, and I don't know, say Knight or Cullen's playing, and they throw one round the corner down the side of the fullback, and we get after run down the side. Like, even though it's not total ticky-tacky football, I think that's very effective football as long as it's in the opposition's half. And like we seen the other night when we had players bombing on, like we had 4 or 5 players bombing on when we were breaking, getting in the box, putting bodies in the opposition's half, and it was great to see. It was great. There wasn't a feeling that anybody was being isolated. So yeah, there was, as I said, like we spoke earlier, there was good parts, but I think we should do more of that. And maybe going a little bit more direct at times may encourage players to get up a little bit faster. Like, if the ball goes long, think, right, we know this is going long, so we're going to start up a little bit higher. And it's just play like. When I don't think we have the players to kind of totally play through the lines. I don't think we don't have it to kind of pass through midfield, flick round the corner, get side on to one, bounce pass. Like, we go back to Wes Hewland, probably our only player that would have been able to do that in kind of in the recent kind of Irish teams. But I don't think we have them players. But so what can we do differently? Well, we can get the ball up a little bit quicker. It doesn't have to be totally direct, but into areas. I want us to get the balls into areas where defenders feel uncomfortable. That's down the sides of they don't want players coming in. Like, if you're a defender, I know from playing up front, defenders like watching players, especially they like to see players in front of them, because all of a sudden then they don't have to worry what's behind them down the side of them. That's why I would say start Shane Long tonight, because I know for a fact he will run. He will run after everything tonight, and he will cause problems. And listen, Luxembourg, no matter, we can talk about whether they've got players playing in MLS or good European, they should be anywhere near our standard. They're not playing at the level our players are playing at, so we should be able to beat them comfortably. Let's get up high up the pitch, turn their defenders down the sides, get them running backwards, get balls into the box, get bodies in the box. If it's gone down the right, left winger, get in the box, try and get goals. Like, we could potentially hammer Luxembourg tonight, I think, but we need to get the ball up a little bit quicker and just get after it.
Okay.
Like, and I know we go back to Jack Charlton playing, put him under pressure. It's not put him under pressure, but to be fair, Jack Charlton's he had players playing for Liverpool, Man United in the top of the first division at the time. We don't have anywhere near that quality at the moment. So again, you're just getting that. You need that balance. But I want us to play higher up and get bodies in the box and just take it from there.
Okay. Thanks, Stephen Elliott, Dan McDonnell, Johnny Ward. Got to take a break, back shortly. Don't forget, folks, that on next week's Paddy Power Half Hour, we're continuing with our new segment, Near Miss. which is aimed at allowing you to reclaim a losing bet. So if you've had a single bet or an accumulator that has fallen down because of a dodgy VAR decision, someone's armpit was offside or players taking a dive just before you fling your phone at the wall, take a screen grab of your losing bet. Be sure to include your bet slip ID, then just send it in to us using the PP Nearmiss hashtag on Twitter. Hit us with a DM on Instagram or send your snap to us on WhatsApp to 087 9180 180 and we will do the rest. We'll announce the selected winners every Friday at the end of the Paddy Power half hour. You can see all the T's and C's on otbsports.com. Stay tuned to our OTB social accounts as well for more. Listeners, you can text us about the Ireland team and tonight's game against Luxembourg, which is live here on News Talk and Off the Ball. Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne in the box from 7:40. We're back after this.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Who needs Wes when you've got Jack Byrne, who also won't get his game? Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie. Great adventures are coming, and News Talk has teamed up with the new Volkswagen ID4 to make sure you're ready.
Well, the next great adventure for me is heading back to the hills of Donegal. I just can't wait to pack up the car, head up home for a couple of days and just go out for a walk on Rosnila Beach or into Rogie and Tullen Strand. I'm just really looking forward to that.
And to help you on your next great adventure, we're giving you a chance to win €2,000. Just get to newstalk.com/adventure for more. With thanks to the all-new Volkswagen ID4.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Have you heard how much more is on Disney Plus with Star?
No, but I get the feeling you're going to tell me.
There's loads more shows like Grey's Anatomy, Ugly Betty, 24, Desperate Housewives, and loads more movies too, like The Favourite, Deadpool 2, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Plus, more brand new originals every month like Big Sky, Love Victor, Solar Opposites and Hellstrom.
All on Disney Plus.
Bingo! Introducing Star on Disney Plus. A whole new world of entertainment, now streaming. 18 plus subscription required, T's and C's apply.
InsureMyHouse.ie. Afternoons are easy with InsureMyHouse.ie. For great quality buildings and contents insurance, InsureMyHouse.ie gets the best cover and lowest price. Visit InsureMyHouse.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyHouse.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At Tesco, we've got value with Easter in mind. Pick up a whole chicken 2 kg, now only $4.55. Or stock up on our many Easter egg offers. And choose from our great offers on wine, like McGuigan Black Label Merlot, Torres Venus Sol, and Campo Viejo Rioja Tempranillo, and more, only €7 each. Tesco. Every little helps. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Every day, businesses like yours are targeted by increasingly sophisticated financial scams. Get Fraud Smart and protect your business from invoice fraud, CEO fraud, and other email scams. For simple, practical advice on how to prevent your business from falling victim to these types of scams, visit fraudsmart.ie and download the brochure Protect Your Business from Fraud. Fraud Smart is an initiative developed by Banking and Payments Federation Ireland.
SIMI member garages are open for service and repairs. Right now, vehicle sales are online with Click and Deliver. Our showrooms are low risk and we're ready to open when conditions allow. Stay safe and look after your car. Brought to you by the Society of the Irish Motor Industry.
The government has introduced a system of mandatory hotel quarantine for passengers travelling to Ireland from or through designated states. Penalties will apply if you do not fulfil the legal requirements relating to Ireland's travel rules. For more information and to book, go to gov.ie/quarantine. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Oh, Brady family ham, well, it's his your only ham. Cured for 3 full days and there's no added water. Always carved from one pork joint, other hams, well, what's the point? It's the nation's ham from Mizzin up to Malin Head. Come out, you other hams, come and face me ham to ham. Show them how you're made with mold and added water. And tell them how Brady family ham chased you away from the green and lonely fields of Kildare.
O'Brady family ham. It's your only ham.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Let's be honest, if you were Declan Rice or Jack Grealish, you'd choose England too. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5 o'clock with Stephen Elliott, the former Republic of Ireland striker, Dan McDonnell, the Irish Independent football correspondent, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward, speaking about the beautiful game with thanks to Paddy Power. 53106. Jesus, when I hear people talk about the Charlton years and winning, we had some of the best players in Europe on our team. Players not just playing regular in top divisions, but players who are on teams winning leagues, European Cups. For God's sake, give Kenny a chance, says Des. Full commentary here on News Talk of the Republic of Ireland and Luxembourg with Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne. 7:40, you can join them. Tonight looks easy, game on paper, but Luxembourg have improved massively, says one of our texters, in the last couple of years. They've got lads playing in the French League 1 and 2, Bundesliga 1 and 2, Belgian, Premier, La Liga and Segunda. The lad up top, Gerson, plays with Dynamo Kiev. He's done the business in Europa League. The Thiel brothers, decent enough attacking players too. Should be an interesting game. But if we play like we did against Serbia, we should have enough for the 3 points, says Colm in Limerick. Kenny has created much more of a buzz around the international team, with a lot more people interested in watching the team play compared to previously under O'Neill and McCarthy. Has to be given this campaign as well as the next, says Daldy in Cork. And lads, let's be real. The style of football the Irish team attempts to play is somewhat irrelevant when one considers we simply do not have enough quality footballers. And considering our population and the popularity of other sports, I can't see that problem changing anytime soon, says John from Leitrim. Johnny Ward, you're at Bows and Longford, so you're excited about the new season, League of Ireland. What's your hopes? What's your expectation?
My hopes and expectations for a good game here have gone out the window because Bows are 2-0 up after 26 minutes. Ross Tierney, one of these young players, up, but Georgie Kelly got the first goal for Bohemians, first goal since joining in the off-season. Hopes for the season, John. I think it's going to be a lot kind of more compact this season in terms of, Dundalk have already dropped 5 points. I don't see enough in Bows to think that they'll necessarily challenge Shamrock Rovers, but I think between Bows, Dundalk, St. Pat's, maybe Sligo Rovers, maybe one or two other teams, there's going to be a real race for Europe, and the battle for finishing, for avoiding relegation looks like it could be fairly tight as well. Longford Town in the base of the first half an hour here are going to have a pretty long season, but obviously Derry City were beaten 2-0 by them, so it's hard to know what to make from Derry, but I'm just very excited by it, to be honest. You watch the goals that Sligo Rovers scored last night, terrific quality, and there's a brilliant buzz even in the first division. Obviously Colin Healy back at Cork City, 3 teams full time in the first division now, so I'm just hoping for a good competitive season. I hope Shamrock Rovers don't run away with it. I think they will probably win the league, but I think St. Patrick's Athletic will give them something of a fight this season, and be interesting what Dan's take is on Dundalk from last night, because that was an eye-catchingly bad result, losing at home to Harps, and how soon will their management team be under pressure if things keep going as they are, because they are in danger of maybe struggling in the title race this season on the basis of that result. Ollie Horgan memorably saying after the game that 6 points won't keep them up, so never change, Ollie, and all that.
Yeah, it was Romeo Parks and Jordan Gibson for Sligo Rovers, 2-1 win over Waterford last night. And as Johnny was saying there, Dan, Finn Harps beating Dundalk, and they beaten Bohemians and Dundalk already.
Yeah, I think actually, before we start to talk about Dundalk, in fairness, you have to give credit to Finn Harps and Ollie, because I think Harps, they're trying to make that next step from being, and in fairness, Ollie would sort of, play up to it to some degree, we're relegation favourites, and that he hasn't said it this year, I don't think, but that's his style. But I think sometimes Ollie, there's a bit of a caricature which takes away from the fact that he's a good manager and he's done a good job there, and so full credit to them, to take full points. And I watched a good bit of that game, and I mean they had to withstand pressure, but I don't think you'd be stretching it to say it was madly undeserved. Dundalk was obviously going to be an issue. We spoke about it a couple of weeks back. I think I've said it several times. They have to start the season well. Because if they don't start the season well, I think there's combustible tendencies there in terms of people behind the scenes, which we've seen last year, and I think can happen again this year. They play Shamrock Rovers next week, and they have the potential to have a low points tally after a couple of games, and I think. People are going to be under pressure, be that Filippo or whoever whoever they tell us is picking the team. So, that's got the potential, because Dundalk are they have spent a lot of money. They have a really well-assembled squad. They're still doing it. You know, they're in the process of bringing in a guy, Wilfred Zahibo, who was in the MLS All-Star team 2-3 years ago. From what I hear, you know, they're paying very competitive wages. You know, maybe even signing on fees, proper money. And if they don't deliver results, then things will happen there. That's 100% going to happen. But what they've done is, in a way, like Dundalk sort of, I don't know what you can call it, sort of diversion from the course to try something different. At the moment, looks like opening things up for everyone else. And making it more competitive. They actually have the spending power if they were spending their money right, to be way clear, but they're not spending it that well at the moment. So that's going to be the challenge for them. Shamrock Rovers were very good last year, but they've lost Jack Byrne and Aaron McAneff, and that's a challenge for them. So as a consequence, there is an opportunity there for other clubs to maybe get a small bit closer to them, and that we won't have a very defined two-horse race as it has been. Bows were second last year, they will point out. But in recent seasons, there's tended to be two dominant teams and the rest nowhere. But I think Bows will be strong this year. I'm trying to half-watch Pats against Drogheda here. I think Drogheda will be actually decent this year, albeit at a sort of a lower level. And then you have Sligo Rovers, who are very good attacking players. And so I think, would it have been a 36-game season? Would it have been a closed-door season for the start? I think a bit like the Premier League. I think you'll see stranger results. You know, I think that is actually an element in it, that it's not quite your standard season. We'll have curious results, but I hope that it's a more open league, that it's not just a runaway train for someone, a bit like Johnny. But I do think that some of the teams in the second tier as such of the Premier have strengthened a bit. So hopefully, because we need we need our league to be better, like ultimately, in every debate that's going on. And I'm a massive League of Ireland fan, very passionate about the league, but you have to call it as it is and be realistic and be honest about it. And a massive problem with the league in recent years is the huge gulf between sides within the league, you know, and that, you know, we have like clubs here trying to be proper full-time clubs, and some games are just too easy for them, and it's not a proper test, and you're not really seeing what players can do. And we can't just have one or two teams good and the rest not being that good. We need the level to just come up. So I'm hopeful that Sligo Rovers and St. Pat's this year, for example, can get a bit better. And that then lifts the standard and it tests everyone to be better, because we've had some good teams do well in Europe and stuff, but obviously, you know, below the bonnet, there's been some very average teams as well too. And that's, you know, we need a better product, a more rounded product. Like Rovers Dundalk next week would be great, I would hope, but we need every week to have games like that.
I was going through the newspaper, I think it was the Indo last week, there was a preview and they went through every single club. And one thing I've always felt about the League of Ireland is there's a lot of turnover of players, and maybe that can be a little bit of a detriment to getting them known within communities. I think Bohemians have done a brilliant job around the community, but like you see with Gaelic games and with Gaelic footballers, like everybody knows who the Dub players are, the Kilkenny hurlers. How does it penetrate, Daniel, the masses a bit more? Those obviously those converted to it and who love the game, and those who are such brilliant supporters of it, who go to the games every week, are already there. But those who might be resistant to it, we've had about an hour and a half of a really hot debate about the Irish team, which is the biggest thing in the country. How do we maybe get a bit more of those fans into the League of Ireland?
It's hard. Listen, it's the perennial debate, JD. I wish I had all the answers. Like, you know, I think definitely like Bows have shown, I think like Dublin has been a problem in my time even living in Dublin, that, you know, I've lived in parts of Dublin, I lived in Dublin 8 for years, where St. Pat's are, and you wouldn't necessarily have known they were there. And like, you know, there's sort of, you know, awareness in communities, and, you know, but like sometimes, you know, you can't look for excuses either. Like clubs have to take control of it themselves. And we've seen Bows do that. In Sligo Rovers this week report, you know, substantial profits from fundraising in the community. And there's a balancing act. I always come back to issues like facilities, and, you know, that there's a consistency of standard and product, that it always looks good, that there's a bit more of a, you know, equality. But then at the flip side of that is you can't hold the better clubs back, and you want them to, you know, challenge in Europe, and sometimes those two things don't go hand in hand and together. Like a big problem the league is always going to face, we can't change, is like you'd have people texting in there from parts of the country that don't have a club within 200 kilometres of them, you know, and like there's no way, like if we were going back to scratch and starting from scratch, and trying to draw a plan for football in the country, you wouldn't be doing it the way that it exists now. And that's always going to be a natural obstacle, and that's always going to be a problem. But there's parts of the country where people don't have a parish. So, but yeah, listen, we need a consistency of standard for me. I think you need the stadiums to look good. I mean, listen, like Stephen's on the line there, who's had a brief time playing in the league, having played at the highest level. Like Stephen would obviously played for Drogheda, and you probably would have seen it, not to put words in your mouth, but there's a big difference between different clubs in the league. Like that, if you look at League One and League Two in England, there's a certain standard there, whereas I found the League of Ireland, there isn't that. And I think that can be a damaging thing in terms of even judging the levels. And listen, there's community stuff and clubs, but also as well, people want the product to be good that they watch as well. I don't know what your time in it was like, Stephen, how you found the overall experience.
Yeah, listen, obviously I think it can be better. There's no doubt about it. Facility-wise, I think funding, there's got to be a bit more funding for the clubs. Like some of the grounds are falling apart. Let's be honest, still is. And I feel like we have this debate every year, don't we? Like saying, how can we make it better? What can we do to get more people interested in it? Like we say, we're talking about getting like players moving from club to club each year. It's difficult to kind of you kind of relate. Know if a player plays for a club, they spend a couple of seasons there, and they sign a new deal. He's going to be there, and it creates a buzz in the. So he's our kind of. Like say if you got a Sligo player there, I go back to Rafa Cretero. He spent a long time at Sligo. He was kind of like, you think of Sligo, you thought of him, didn't you? He was he's kind of their main kind of. There needs to be more players like that. I think that spend a little bit more time. That, you know what, I've signed a 2-3 year contract at a club, and they're going to be there. They're going to be part of the plans going forward. But ultimately, it's very difficult. Like there's so many clubs in Dublin. All the clubs seem to be right on top of each other. Even Dundalk and Drogheda, they're like, it's not miles away from them. There's areas like Dan has mentioned there. There's so many areas where there is no football teams, and it's very difficult. But to be fair, on the positive side, I think that the players, I think we just need. How can we make players better? That's where you look at. How can we get the quality of the players better? Like, and I know you can kind of go and watch a League of Ireland game. Like, for example, I watched the Sligo Waterford game last night. I thought it was an outstanding game. Like, really kind of open game, lots of chances, some great goals. Like the 2 goals, John's already mentioned, the 2 goals Sligo got were out of this world. You know, and if you see them score in the Premier League, they'd be on Match of the Day highlight reels all over Sky Sports News. But again, it's just. I don't know, how do you make it better? Like, I think getting rid of this coronavirus would be a good start, so we can get some kind of revenue back into the game and stuff. And it feels like kind of this has caused it to kind of have a massive kind of backward step, and I think it's affected more countries kind of football than others. Like obviously over in the UK, they still have the television money, and there's still kind of people all over the world watching the games. And obviously the football league clubs have this thing now where they kind of put their matches on their own website, and people pay a tenner to watch it, like on the iFollow and the stuff like that kind of keeps them going, and obviously the money coming down from the big TV companies. But in Ireland, it's just, I don't know, I think it just needs a lot more investment, and it needs to be more enjoyable to go and watch a game, like for people. Like, listen, you're always going to get the 90 minutes of the football where it's exciting, you're caught up. If you love football, you're going to enjoy a game of football. But the question is, how do we get people who don't go and watch the games to go and watch it? It's very difficult, because people there's so much happening in Ireland, like the likes of the Gaelic, that's highly supported. Like people feel a little bit more like, you got your Dublin, you got Kerry, like counties where people feel that little bit more pride about the team maybe than say how many teams are in Dublin. Like it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of little areas where, I don't know. It's just, I think I think that's been a big problem. I think that's where before the pandemic came in, I think that's where Bows and clubs were getting it right, that they were making it a night out. You know, that it was like, you know, they had a specific identity, and it won't work everywhere. It won't work in other parts of the country, but in Dublin in particular, that for the people who are spending their money on the Friday night, it's like, instead of maybe going to the pub or going to some other entertainment, this was their entertainment, and the match was a part of it. And they were finally sort of getting a message out there, which sometimes for years I think people have just relied, well, come and watch the football. It's like, it's not as straightforward as that for people. It's a bit more about, and I think it's interesting generally in society, like, will any of our habits change when we come out of this eventually, whenever we come out of it? Because I kind of wonder, have people maybe taken things for granted that were there, and you sort of think, is this an opportunity that whenever we can open our grounds up again, that people will maybe appreciate more the value of going to a game, getting out,
going to a game with a family member or something, and to be prepared for that. Because, listen, it's small steps. The crowds were up marginally in the year before. There was a bit more of a buzz, I felt, going to games in certain places, and then it's obviously stopped. All of a sudden, it's stopped now, and it's been shut down, for a year. But you kind of wonder when we come out of it, at all levels, for all sports, not just the football thing, will people be more inclined to think, yeah, I've spent a lot of time in the house, maybe I should go out and do more stuff. And clubs have to be thinking that way in terms of being open-minded to drawing people in whenever we get back open again. We need it.
We've got a tweet in here. Finally, League of Ireland is mentioned as the solution. Took you an hour to get to it. Fact is, nobody wants to give up their twice annual trip to Anfield to fund a League of Ireland game. Sad, says one of our texters. Johnny, who are the players we want to be looking out for this season in the League of Ireland?
I think we've lost him, have we?
Johnny's frozen. It must be cold in Dailyman Park at the moment.
I don't know if he's playing at the moment. I'm just going to throw a name out there for people. I don't know if Dawson Devoy is playing. No, he's
the under-21s, isn't he?
He's with the 21s. He's been with the 21s, sorry. There's a player to keep an eye on for people. He's as sort of an attacking midfielder, number 10. I think he's got a really good chance of having a very good career. So I think he's one in the younger bracket to mention. And young Johnny Kenny, who was playing for Sligo Rovers last night as well, a striker. He's still a Leaving Cert student. He was playing through the middle last night. He's 17, 18. He's a name to watch. People want, I think also, and it's all what Stephen talked about, I think what the league has become in recent years is a younger league as well. It's definitely become a younger
academies as well,
league.
yeah.
And I think people want to, you want to be able to sell it. You want people to be watching the game and thinking, yes, I may see these players play at a higher level.
Paul McGrath, the next Paul McGrath.
Well, yeah, but it was even more recent examples as well.
Kevin Doyle, Shane Long.
Seamus Coleman. You want people to watch it and think, yes, this is a player that I'm going to see play for Ireland in a number of years' time. And, Enda Stevens, Matt Doherty, there's a number of players that are going to be involved tonight. Seamus Coleman, as you mentioned, who've been there. And I think, marketing the league as well through those younger players is something that's, important. And things are changing with Brexit and stuff. It's hard to know what's going to pan out, but there is an opportunity. There's no shame in saying that players want to get out of the league. That's most leagues and most small leagues in the world. That's the case. People are trying to get to England or Italy or France or wherever it is, and we shouldn't be afraid of embracing
Dan,
that.
Do you not think those, obviously, some of them players you mentioned, obviously the likes of Dyler, Longy, Darryl Murphy, players, Stephen Ward as well, players that have started off their career see me when I started playing. I obviously moved to UK at a young age. My route was a little bit different, but see these lads, Wes Houlihan, that have kind of spent a long time playing in the League of Ireland, a few seasons in the League of Ireland, then gone away. Is there nothing that, from a commercial point of view, that all these lads, somebody can get all these lads together and try and kind of come up with a plan just to try and highlight it a little bit more and say, look, I don't, because I feel like we're not utilising these people.
Mm-hmm.
I know, obviously, when we were in the Euros there a few years back in France, there was a few
photo shoots.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? A photo shoot with all the lads wearing the jersey of the club. Surely that has to be a little bit
90 seconds, guys. Sorry.
It? Do you know? I don't know. There has to be somebody has to come up with some ideas where they can utilise these big kind of high-profile figures that have made that journey and made a kind of step up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know we're running out of time. You'd like to see someone like Darren Murphy's obviously come back now. You obviously like that link, but obviously, listen, people get settled over in the UK, and that's what happens. You'd like that link to be there. That later, they start their managerial careers here as well too, or whatever. But obviously, listen, that's not realistic in the real world in terms of how they operate. They go away and they don't always come back, and you lose that link that might have been there. But anyway, I know time's against us, John. Right?
Yeah, and just to get your verdict, Stan, on tonight.
I think Ireland will win, but I'm not expecting it to be 3-4-0. I think it could be close, but just a win and just get it in the bank.
And Stephen, your verdict?
Yeah, I just want to win. I take a 1-0 horrible performance where they have all the possession as long as you win the game. That's where I'm at. I just want to see us win. We haven't won a game since he's been in charge. I think it's massively important for Stephen, first and foremost, that he gets this win under his belt so he can just take stock of everything and be like, you know what, right, I've got that win now, I can kind of relax. Because I think until that happens, he'll always feel this massive pressure.
Stephen Elliott, Dan McDonnell, Johnny Ward, thanks so much, lads. Speak soon.
Cheers, John.
Thanks.
The lads there. And we have full commentary of the Republic of Ireland and Luxembourg. We're back on the air at 7:40 here on News Talk Off the Ball with Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne in the commentary box to bring you the whole of the match live here on News Talk. And we want to bring you a clip now from an engaging and important panel discussion on Thursday night's show with Tony Ward, Mary Cullen and Noel McGrath in association with the Irish Cancer Society and supported by Novartis Ireland. Have a listen.
And can I just say, like Mary, I find it hard to explain as well how you felt at the time. But you really did. Like, there's an element of self-pity, but honestly, I found it minimal. But what worried me was everybody else close to me worrying about me. And that's why I wanted to fight that little bit harder. And I think possibly as sports people we're helped. I mean, Mary was talking about, her race plan to get to the end point. And I think we've all, whether it's the tip hurling team or whether it's the Munster Ireland rugby team, or I played a bit of soccer as well, but you have a game plan. And I think that helps because you do get a game plan. And I use that game, obviously very loose, the word game loosely, but you do set a plan in your mind going forward and you try and stick to that. But to answer your question, Nathan, in terms of men encouraging men, I am absolutely open with everybody. And we might slag each other off, but there's a very serious message behind it when I'm talking to anybody who's quite, again, use that word flippant, where something like this is concerned. It's too serious. And the impact on so many people, not least yourself, and, the obvious effects that could come from cancer. But certainly, I think men, and I think as a society in Ireland, we are improving, but we've still a bit to go.
That was a clip from Thursday night's Living Well and Beyond with Cancer panel with Tony Ward, Mary Cullen and Noel McGrath in association with the Irish Cancer Society and supported by Novartis Ireland. It's that time of the year when the Irish Cancer Society are raising badly needed funds. For more details and to donate, see cancer.ie. The Irish Cancer Society support line is a supportive information service staffed by experienced cancer nurses where anyone concerned about cancer can get trusted information and advice about any type of cancer. Call on free phone 1800 200 700 or email supportline@irishcancer.ie. So let you know, in the League of Ireland, half-time Bohemians 2, Longford 0 and a St Patrick's 0, Drogheda United 0 in the Premier Division. Remember, we got commentary of the Republic of Ireland's World Cup qualifier against Luxembourg here on News Talk tonight. Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne join them at 7:40 right the way through until 10 o'clock. Let's hope we can get our first win for Stephen Kenny. Don't forget Off the Ball tomorrow then with Joe Malloy sitting in the chair from 1 until 7. First up, the Sunday paper review. Bernard Jackman and Kieran Cunningham picking out the best stories from 1:30 till 2:30. We'll review the Republic of Ireland's World Cup qualifier against Luxembourg with Gary Breen, David Sneyd, Stewie Byrne and Nathan Murphy. Then Wexford hurling legend Liam Griffin will join us for an in-depth conversation. Niamh Briggs and Brendan Fanning to talk rugby, and we'll also bring you more of Joe's chat with the former Liverpool footballer Danny Murphy. Going to be a brilliant show. Make sure you tune in. Now, if you missed our Saturday panel, review of the week with Maura Trasny-Caddy, Mick O'Keefe and Cian Tracy, or any of OTB Football Saturday with Stephen Elliott, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward, you can find the podcasts of the content on the brand new OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download the app for iOS and Android, or check out the content wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for listening this afternoon. Join Nathan and Stewie at 7:40. Bye-bye.